welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And tonight's NXT, it's hard for me to articulate because I thought it was a good episode, not as strong as last week. But I felt like what really made this NXT special, for me anyway, was the main event. Outside of that, however, I don't know. It just seemed like a pretty average card. But the thing about NXT is even an average card is more spectacular than most of the things produced on either Raw or SmackDown in a given week. Ashton, what did you think of tonight's episode?
Tonight's episode was kind of weird, but I don't think it was weird in a bad way. I just think it was weird because it felt a lot shorter than usual. Like, it felt like we got less content tonight than we usually do.
I think that's what I've been trying to express as well, Ash, and I completely see where you're coming from because, yeah, two matches that seemed pretty abrupt in their nature. You got a women's match that went on for like a little bit, but it felt more like, I guess, your typical WWE Divas match. Of course, a lot better done, you know, with the two women involved. And again, the main event I felt like was stellar. And we also got some announcements, some progression for NXT as a brand as a whole. So yeah, it was a very interesting episode to say the least. But with that said, let us get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. And I don't have any heats of the night. I just have like one nitpick. I don't really know how I feel about the Vaudevillains just squashing Big Cass and Enzo Amore. I get that you want to make the Vaudevillains look strong, especially because, I mean, look at who the champions are. You know, it's the Ascension. Any team that's going to go against them has to have a certain credibility to them if we want to believe that they have a chance. But I don't know if it would have been better for storyline purposes to have Marcus Louis and Sylvester LaFord cost them the victory rather than the Vaudevillains being so dominant, because Big Cass and Enzo Amore are such fan favorites. So I don't really know how to feel about that.
I love it. I think it was perfect. I think that, for me, this is the opposite of a complaint. I think that they handled it perfectly. And I think that what I like so much about it is sometimes you just need to understand that you can't protect everyone. And I think that the people that you need to worry less about protecting are the underdog characters. You don't need to protect an underdog, because if you protect them too much, they stop being an underdog. And Enzo and Big Cass are underdogs.
That is very true. And I think along that same line of thought, you know, to get my second nitpick out of the way, in that same vein, I don't know how I felt about Tyler Breeze walking out on his match tonight, you know, and giving Tyson Kidd the win by countout, because, you know, Tyson Kidd had cost Tyler Breeze the NXT Championship a week prior, and I get, you know, that he said, like, he doesn't need it, and then his only focus is the championship and what's going to go down with that. But I just think Breeze, he has such fanfare despite being a heel, and he has such momentum, I think more so than Tyson Kidd, that to walk out on the match, I don't really know if that, again, set right with me either. So just interesting how some of the outcomes were booked on tonight's episode.
I do agree that particular, like, if I would have any heat of the night tonight, it would have been that. It would have been this whole idea that Tyler Breeze is all of a sudden a cowardly heel, rather than like a cocky, arrogant, I'm prettier than you heel. But I think that the way he explained it later on in the show made up for it.
And I could agree with that, because at least he did offer an explanation. I mean, how many times do we have a finish like that go down and nobody offers anything about it? So I at least have to commend WWE for having the foresight to say, you know what, Tyler, let's have you talk about it. And, you know, because it just seemed like that kind of finish would have been more suitable if the roles were reversed. Like Tyson just being like, I don't need this, fact! And he just walks off. But, yeah, just really some of the booking decisions that were made. I'm not even going to say we're good or bad, just the word I used earlier, interesting. So I just wanted to point that out. But again, no heats of the night, and that's a rarity for me with NXT. So what about you, Ashton? Did you have any?
Yeah, like I said, if I did have any kind of heats of the night, it would have been the whole Tyler Breeze walking out on Tyson Kidd thing, but I think that he explained it out of being a heat of the night, so no heats of the night for me.
There we go. So with that said, let us get right into our NXT review, and we open up with the semifinals of the NXT Tag Team Championship Tournament, the Vaudevillains versus Enzo Amore and Big Cass.
And it was basically a squash match. Not really anything to even talk about here.
Yeah, really not. I mean, Enzo tried to go in for a crossbody, I believe, on Simon Gotch. Of course, I love how they let his power gimmick come into play here because he caught Enzo, had him on his shoulders, nailed a steamroller, and, tagged in Aiden English. And Aiden English did the senton, and they got the pin. And then, post-match, we had Marcus Louis and Sylvester Ford. They came out with clippers, and Enzo's beard got shaved, so it is on now.
Yeah, this was kind of awkward. We had a segment later on in the night that would kind of sort of explain it, but I still don't understand why exactly Sylvester and Marcus Louis went for the beard in the first place.
I felt like it would have been more impactful had they gone for the mohawk.
See, and again, I don't understand why they're targeting Enzo's hair in the first place. It just seems stupid.
It's weird, because I guess sometimes when certain rivalries reach a certain point, there's something about hair, I guess it's supposed to be a symbol representation of pride or this or that or the other. So I guess maybe that's the direction they're trying to go in. But I do agree with you, because nothing in this rivalry prior to this has hinted at, this jealousy over hair or anything even really involving the hair of the combatants involved. So it does seem like a weird direction to go in. But I think because these are two primarily comedy teams, that this type of gimmick could work if they want to really do something with it down the road. So
I don't know. I don't understand the whole let's shave his beard. Like, why is that a thing? But there's no real way to explain it away at this point, so I guess we're just going to have to accept it for what it is.
Right.
All right, well, I believe that up next we had our big announcement from Triple H.
Yeah, pretty much talking about how NXT has become, the brand on the network.
Which is a
fact!
Yeah!
So glad I caught that. I thought we were going to have an awkward pause there, but...
So did I.
Yeah. Good catch by John, for once. He says it's become the brand on the network. And says that they're going to do it again. And I believe he said 3 weeks' time, September 11th, TakeOver 2. And he says, if you love NXT, which I piped in at that point with you and I watching together, I'm like, we love NXT. He says, we're going to have the reveal of the new general manager. If you love NXT, we haven't even gotten started. You're going to love this. So we know we're going to get a new GM, who's actually, Triple H even said in that same promo, is going to appear live next week. So we won't even have to wait till TakeOver 2. And TakeOver 2 in itself is going to have an NXT World Title match, an NXT Women's Championship match, which you can already pencil in as Bayley versus Charlotte. And the winners of the NXT Tag Team Championship Tournament will take on the Ascension at TakeOver 2. So this card, I think, is really going to shape up quite nicely.
Yeah, it's definitely shaping up. I don't know. I think that it's one of those things where you can have a few matches that are just so good that the rest of the card doesn't even really matter. And I think that's kind of what we're going to have here. We're probably going to have Bayley versus Charlotte. We're going to most likely have the Ascension versus, they're calling themselves Team Lucha now. So Sin Cara and Kalisto, who we've referred to as Carlisto. And then your main event match, if I had to guess, is probably going to be a Fatal 4-Way. Kid, Zayn, Breeze, Neville. And those three matches alone make this card worth watching, so they can just put a bunch of random nonsensical filler crap in for the rest, and we're still going to tune in, and it's still probably going to be amazing.
Because it's the NXT roster. Again, because of the little teases we got tonight, and Enzo and Big Cass explaining themselves, we're also probably going to get a hair versus hair match on this card.
Yeah.
I think that could be fun too. Again, because we've seen hair versus hair matches in the past. The only really serious one that I remember was Angle versus Edge.
Yeah, that was so good too.
I heard they got match of the year, and I don't know if it was a PWI magazine or something like that. I know people were raving over that match, but that's kind of like the standard of the hair versus hair match. But these guys, again, it's comedy. It's supposed to, I guess, be the baby faces laughing at the expense of the foreigner heels. And I think it's going to work. I have faith in those guys for that. So, yeah, it's a nice-looking card, especially those three matches that, you ran down. I mean, the Tag Team Championship match should be stellar. If we get a Fatal 4-Way, which, based on what happened tonight, I'm more and more convinced, that will happen, that is going to own. That is going to be amazing. TakeOver 2, I think will really deliver. I can't wait to do live reactions with you, over it. It's just going to be a great show. So yeah, Triple H cut that promo, got the fans hyped up. It's always nice to see babyface Triple H on NXT. And yeah, I don't think he made any other significant announcements besides the new GM, who again will appear next week and take over too. So unless you have anything else to say, I guess we can move on.
Yeah, we can move on. I don't know the exact order that things happened in, so let's just go to the Tyson Kidd, Tyler Breeze thing, which we already kind of talked about, so I don't really have a whole lot to add. They were starting to have a decent match, and then Breeze just decided that this is something that he didn't need in his life, and he bailed.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Kidd was scoring some really precise kicks, all over Tyler Breeze, particularly the face, which I mean, he's very protective of that because he's gorgeous. And they just decided he was done. Then after the match, Kidd was posing in Breeze's fur coat, and he even got a fact chant going with the NXT universe, so that is officially a thing. Breeze seemed like he wanted the match because even before it, he cut a promo, with Devin Taylor, backstage saying, "Well, wouldn't you be angry, Devin? He cost me the opportunity to be the most gorgeous champion in NXT history." I know, Breeze. I feel your pain so much. And then, of course, in the post match, when they're like, "Tyler, can you explain yourself out there?" It's like, I don't even care about this, all right? All I care about is the NXT Championship and what's going to happen with it. Get out of my face, you paparazzo. So, Breeze is in a very precarious place right now.
Yeah, Breeze, I don't know. It's kind of a weird, because I mean he technically used his number one contendership last week. So is he still number one contender because it was a disqualification?
And see, that's the weird thing, because it was a disqualification that would have given him the loss because Tyson Kidd attacked Adrian Neville. So it is a win for Neville. But at the same time, again, it wasn't even a loss that was fashioned by Tyler Breeze. He didn't know that Tyson Kidd was going to do the stuff that he did out there. So, again, this just gives more credence to the idea of a Fatal 4-Way. You had Kidd get the win here. You have Tyler Breeze with a legitimate complaint. You have Neville, who's the champion. We've just got to figure out a way between now and then, which I'm sure they will, to fit Sami Zayn in there, because I don't think it's enough justification. Oh, I ran out to help my friend. Maybe if he beats Breeze next week, or Kidd, or somebody, or just in the weeks before this event, whenever that is, then we can get him in and we have ourselves a banging Fatal 4-Way for sure.
I hope so. I really do. It's going to be awesome if they do that, man. We haven't ever had a multi-man main event at an NXT live event.
That's right. It'll be, if this card shakes out the way that I think it's going to, it'll be
or an NXT live special. Isn't that what they call them?
Yeah. This will be the first multi-man championship match that we've had on an NXT live special, and it'll be the first hair versus hair match that we've had on an NXT live special. So I love how NXT, in ways big or small, they just continue to raise the bar of their just production, of what they present to audiences for their live specials and just as a show as a whole. So great stuff.
I look forward to the first tables match and the first cage match, and maybe even the first Hell in a Cell match somewhere down the line. There are just so many firsts that NXT has to get out of the way. And honestly, I'm looking forward to the next championship to get created, because I think I have a little bit of an idea of what it may be.
Really? Interesting. I wasn't even thinking about a new championship being created, but you know what? Some kind of a mid-card title, because NXT is...
No, really John. Stop thinking NXT, start thinking FCW.
Iron Man Championship.
FCW 15 title, man.
Dude, I want it to happen, but I'm really...
I don't even care. I don't even care. Dude, I don't even care if it happens on FC or on NXT. I want it on the main roster is my ultimate goal, but if we can have it on the main roster, I would be so ecstatic if we got it on NXT, because look at all of the freaking talent that we have down there and that we're going to have down there in the very near future that's technically still there but hasn't been on TV yet.
Right. I know. It would be such a great fit for the brand, for the talent that we have on there. It's just, right now, I hope it would get in, but I just don't know. That would be...
Look, all I'm saying is, it's obviously not an idea that the WWE has rejected, because they already had it on FCW.
That is true. So we'll have to wait and see.
All right.
Anything can happen.
Yeah. So up next we had Charlotte versus Becky Lynch. This was, you know what? Before we actually talk about the match, let me just say this. I loved the package that we had in Becky Lynch the last time we saw her. It was the first little introduction of this rocker chick gimmick. It was subtle, but it was there. She got the Lita comparison, which I can see it because they gave her this rocker gimmick and she's got the red hair. But other than that, that's pretty much where the comparison stops. I absolutely despise where they took the gimmick this week. All of a sudden now she freaking is a headbanger that screams out of her lungs.
Yeah, you know what? I had a sinking feeling you'd come here with that tonight.
I think that one consistency that I will always give people is I enjoy gimmicks, but I hate it when they're done over the top. I enjoy the Ascension, but I didn't like it when they were like taking it way too seriously and acting like they were supernatural. I love Becky Lynch with this rocker gimmick, but this is way too much.
Let me ask you an honest question, Ashton. Do you think Dean Ambrose kind of walks that line pretty well as like that crazy kind of gimmick?
Yes.
How do you feel like his presentation is?
Yeah, absolutely. If he and even sometimes with him, it's a little bit over the top. But I think that the fact that his gimmick is unpredictable over the top, if it's very, very rarely sprinkled in, works.
Okay, because I just wanted to get some kind of a barometer going to kind of measure what's over the top and what isn't. That was just the biggest example that came to my mind was Dean Ambrose. I personally didn't mind it, but then again, that's because Becky Lynch, I don't think, has any kind of consistent exposure. It's like we see her and then she kind of drops off the radar for a little bit. So I guess that's why I didn't mind it, because it did feel like it's been a while since we've seen her. And then she comes out, she does a little hair whipping thing, and then the screaming, and I'm like, all right, well, let's see what they do in the ring. Had a nice, little match. I do think if these women were to ever have a legitimate feud, I could get behind it, because there does seem to be some kind of chemistry there. But in the end, I think everybody knew really how this match was going to go.
Exactly. We all knew ahead of time that Charlotte was going to win this, but it was still nice to see Becky Lynch get some offense. I think that Becky Lynch was getting over more before she turned her gimmick up to 11 than she's going to get with her gimmick turned up to 11.
Right. I mean, the crowd did seem to receive her very well in this match, to be
fair.
fair.
And that's the thing, John. If you compare the reaction she got tonight with the reaction she got, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but the first time when she had this rocker gimmick, it's nowhere close. She had a huge pop, really loud, prominent Becky chants last time, and this time you could barely hear it. It was there. I'm not trying to deny that it was there or say that it was really super faint, but it was like 40% of the crowd, if that.
I'll have to go back and listen, because honestly, I don't have a recollection to the pop like that, but I will take your word for it, absolutely. Because Becky does seem to have that likable quality about her. So I think if they could just get it right, you'd have a real women's competitor on your hands in Becky Lynch. I mean, she's already one of my favorites because of the offense that she's capable of. I just think we need to find like what works for her. Maybe just toning it back down and going back to square one. Because she came in with that overly Irish, like hey, I'm from Ireland, whatever thing, and it was cute, but it wasn't going to get anywhere. Then they do like the rocker thing, the first time, and you really dug it. I really dug it, and clearly the NXT universe as well. And now, to use your phrase, they turned it up to 11, and it's a risk. It's certainly a risk. So we'll have to see how it all pans out. Charlotte does hit bow down to the Queen. For the win. I was surprised that we didn't get any kind of interruption or any kind of mind games from Bayley, but I guess it's not even consistent with her character anyway. She's more the shy, fangirl type character. But I am looking for more interactions between these two leading up to TakeOver 2, so I hope we get them.
I think that the whole Bayley thing could work. I still have hope for Sasha, even though it's definitely not going to happen at TakeOver 2. I want to see Sasha either get called up to the main roster, or if she's not going to get called up to the main roster before Charlotte, at least have her win the title off of her.
Yeah.
But sadly, at this rate, I mean, they're talking about bringing Charlotte up quickly, so I'm thinking that Charlotte will probably actually lose the title to Bayley at this live event. Or live special.
Yeah, those are my thoughts exactly, Asha. But hey, considering the history between Bayley and Sasha, I wouldn't be surprised if Sasha was the first feud for Bayley for the championship. And, because they just want to hotshot Charlotte to the main roster. I honestly don't know how I feel about that. I guess that'll be a discussion to have at a later time. But, Bayley is NXT Women's Champion. I could really get into it. And Sasha as her first feud, well, to use the famous meme, shut up and take my money, because I'd be really behind that. So.
All right. Well, do you want to move on?
Absolutely.
Okay, like I said earlier, I don't know the exact order, so we'll just talk about this now since it was a couple segments ago. Tyler Breeze talks about why he left the match.
Yeah, pretty much says, like, his head isn't even there. You know, him and Tyson Kidd are fine. Where his head is at is the fate of the NXT Championship in the match that I think he even said is going to be announced next week. So I guess when the GM arrives, it's going to be he or she is going to be bringing some announcements with them. So
What do you think?
I'm hoping you're right about Fatal 4-Way. I'm hoping that he originally says, again, or she, I don't know why I keep saying I guess I just assume it's going to be. I think we threw out ideas of, like, William Regal or Booker T, so that's just stuck in my head. But I'm thinking they're going to say that it's a triple threat. Sami Zayn interrupts, and then they say, okay, Sami, you won in, well, you have to win your match tonight against, and then maybe it's a non-title match against Adrian Neville, and he beats Neville. I think that would be a fantastic way to get Zayn involved.
That'd be crazy, dude.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that. They say, hey, Sami, you won in. Well, there's a buy-in, and it's beating the NXT champion. Sami does that, and then he looks really like a legitimate threat to Neville because, hey, I beat you once. I can do it again. Personally, I think the Fatal 4-Way, and I've said this, is the perfect kind of platform to get the championship on Breeze because all the commotion could be going on. You could hit a move out of nowhere and get the pin. Or if you want to keep pushing Neville to the moon, it's a great way. It's a great narrative to say he overcame the odds with only a 25% chance he retained the ice. You know, that whole spiel. So I'm hoping we get our Fatal 4-Way, and I think it's definitely going to happen next week.
Man, I hope you're right. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here. We had a Mojo Rawley match against Steve Cutler, of all people.
Gotta love that Cutler. Yeah, not really much to say here. I'm being serious about this action. I'm amazed Cutler even got offense in this match.
I know, right?
He got a clothesline. I think he even got a headlock or something at one point, but it wasn't enough to stop the hype train. And I say that with all the agony in the world. Because Mojo, he hit the two splashes in the corner, he hit the butt bump, and then he hit the hyperdrive. And, he gets the win. I love the boos that he was getting, because people are just really sick of his crap. And then, if that wasn't enough, it was the 12th day of Christmas, and we got a Mojo Rawley promo. I would have preferred Cole.
Would you have?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can at least make fire with that or fuel something. What do you do with a Mojo Rawley promo except suffer and look back on your life?
Yeah, he tried to be intimidating, but at the end of the day, like everything else he does in life, he failed.
Exactly. And if people out there who are Mojo Rawley fans think that we're being overly critical, well, my advice to Mojo Rawley is suck less. So, yeah, pretty much says, Bull, you put my head on a swivel, he got me, and, you're underestimating this smile. Well, this smile is gone. Ooh, boots, shaking, intimidation. So awful. God, Dean Ambrose would eat you for lunch. In fact, no, he wouldn't even bother because his palate is more refined than that.
Mojo Rawley has been going to the bad John Cena school of acting.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's so painful. So painful. I really don't even have anything else to say about it. I mean, I really don't care about a feud between Mojo Rawley and Bull Dempsey. I'm sorry, I don't. And I hate saying that about any NXT talent, but Bull is getting over in this feud already, and he's only done the one beatdown. Like, that's how fans perceive Mojo. This isn't going to work in the direction that I think you want it to work, WWE. I'm just letting you know. If you think that this is going to make Mojo seem like a great babyface, he got booed. There were Bull chants at the mention of his name, because Mojo did call him out. Bull is going to inadvertently be a babyface, at least for the period of this feud. It's ridiculous.
Is it really inadvertent, though, John? I'm beginning to wonder if this is kind of what the NXT writers were intending.
Maybe, Ashton. I mean, that whole line, as hokey as it was, and as much as I facepalmed him saying his smile is gone, it seems like the seedlings, are planted for that inevitable heel turn. To say, you guys weren't with me. Well, forget being hyped. I just want to win, or something within that vein, and he just turns on the crowd, which I think would be great. Then he leaves, gets himself together, and then maybe he re-debuts as something more serious that doesn't really care about pandering to audiences or being a certain kind of product or anything, just being a guy that goes out there, beats people up, and wins. But yeah, and then Bull Dempsey as a babyface, I don't know, it just seems like all kinds of awkward turtle, but I'll keep an open mind.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just this whole thing is just kind of weird. I don't know. I don't because like why would they team them up in the first place if they didn't realize that Bull was or that Mojo was getting bad reactions?
And then second of all, Ashton, I'm sorry, maybe you'll disagree with me on this, but when you're looking at it from a kayfabe perspective, this makes Mojo Rawley look like the stupidest man on the planet. And I say that because he said that he didn't keep his head on his swivel and Bull got one over on him. Dude, he told you to your face that if you screwed this up for them, he was going to take your head off. He
Yeah.
was going to kill you.
Yeah.
He said this to you. If somebody said that to me, and I'm tagging with them, every time I'm in the ring, I'm looking over my shoulder thinking, oh, please, dear God, let us win, because if we don't, I'm going to die. How did Mojo not see this coming? It makes him look stupid, and when somebody looks stupid, why should I feel bad for them when this was something that was really entirely their fault? Maybe it's just my hatred for Mojo, and I could be the first one to admit that because I do not like this gimmick at all. But I would like to think that even if it was somebody that I loved, like a Cesaro or Morrison, that was so stupid they allowed this to happen, that I'd have the same criticism. It just doesn't make you look good at all.
I completely agree. You're basically telling me that Mojo is either A, dumb, or B, really, really gullible. And either way, I lose respect for him as a person.
Exactly, because at least if the gimmick was like, say for example, I hate to go to this particular one, but it is the best example I can think of, like a Eugene, right?
Right. Well,
Where
and
they
you know
make it
what though? Maybe gullible isn't the right word for it. Maybe just overly trusting is the word for it. In which case, I can kind of understand why they're going for the sympathy ploy, but it's not going to work with somebody like Mojo because, I mean, he already looks kind of dumb in the first place. So the fact that they're trying to make it seem like he's like this just super sweet, nice guy who's just way too trusting of the big, scary bully, it's just an angle that's not going to work with a guy like Mojo.
well, it's not going to work, Ashton, because of how it was presented. If they did it, for example, like maybe Bull comes up to him and he says, "Hey Mojo, you ready for a match?" "Oh yeah, you know it. You know I stay hyped." And then Bull's just like, "Well, Mojo, this really means a lot to me. So I don't want us to drop the ball, okay? I mean, if we do, I'm going to be very upset. But just stay calm and let's just do our best out there," or something like that, where he hints at it. I could understand that because you don't really know how to interpret very upset. Maybe he'll give me a tongue lashing backstage, really just verbally put me in my place. Maybe he'll just brush me off and we'll never team again. You don't really know how to find that. But Bull comes on and he says, "I'm going to kill you." I don't think there are many interpretations for that.
Yeah, there's not
So
really a whole lot of room for interpretation there.
exactly. Look, again, if it was a character, speaking of Mojo, that would be like a Eugene or something like that's very trusting or easily taken advantage of by the heels who have ulterior motives in mind, I get it. And even though I may not be a fan of that type of angle here at the point where I am now in my wrestling fandom and everything, I'd at least understand it. I'd say, okay, well, this is the setup. But here, Mojo, at least they present him as like this educated guy, was a part of a football team, seems well educated, that kind of athlete. And the guy tells you to your face is going to beat you up, and then you're surprised and you're like, well, my smile's gone. Now, well, watch your back, man. Where do you think you are? I don't know. It just annoys me.
Well, I don't know. We're just gonna have to sit back and see because as much as we don't want this, we're getting it.
Uh, yeah, that should be the whole tagline for this feud. At NXT Takeover 2, Bull Dempsey takes on Mojo Rawley. You may
Whether
not
you
like
it or not.
Yeah, you may not like it, but you're receiving it.
Get ready.
So,
Here it comes.
yeah. Open up, baby. Here it comes.
Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and move on then. Adam Rose, Sami Zayn versus Sin Cara Kalisto, now known as Team Lucha, which is super duper generic, but I guess that's what they're going by. So let's just go with it, I guess.
Yeah, they should really hire us for their marketing team to come up with names.
Well,
Because,
I mean, for what it's
most.
worth, calling them Team Lucha isn't really any more generic than just kind of mashing their names together and calling them Carlisto.
That's true, but at least our name gives a little bit more of an appearance that we tried. But yeah, this match was excellent. I mean, it was what we thought it would be with the four people involved. Sin Cara and Kalisto, are just so great together. I do hope, and I do believe, that they will go all the way and be the next NXT Tag Team Champions. And what a great set of new torchbearers for those titles. Because whenever you come off of a dominant reign, like Paige did with the NXT Women's Championship, which she never even lost, she had to forfeit it, or Bo as NXT champion, you're always wondering who their successor is going to be, and if you should worry about it or not. If Sin Cara and Kalisto are going to be the genuine successors to the Ascension, which again I fully believe they will, I don't think you could have asked for a better team. Really, that they are wonderful together.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're just so much fun to watch.
They are. I mean, they did some great teases here. Sin Cara and Sami Zayn had a great sequence with each other in the ring, to the point where Sin Cara nails like a springboard arm drag, sending Sami Zayn to the outside, and then Kalisto and Sin Cara looked like they were going to do double team dives, but then they faked them out in unison. They were totally in sync. It was amazing. And Sami Zayn and Adam Rose, they did well together. Not really many double team moves that I can remember, but Adam Rose, he got more aggressive as the match progressed. Nailed a beautiful double-A spinebuster to Kalisto. God, I loved that maneuver. And,
can we just take a minute to establish how much of a beast Adam Rose was in this match?
Yeah.
Like, there were so many moments where I was like, oh, that was a Leo Kruger moment.
Yeah, dude, the lariat he nailed.
I know, dude, it was massive.
That friggin' slice, though.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, Sin Cara nailed a suicide dive. I believe it was to Sami Zayn. Kalisto nailed his finisher, which the announcers gave it a name, but I don't remember it. I don't know if you remember it, Ashton, but I can't recollect it. But he nailed that, pretty much that standing slice bread-looking maneuver. Then he tagged in Sin Cara. Sin Cara nailed his beautiful senton, and Adam Rose actually ate the pin.
Yep, Adam Rose no longer technically undefeated, although still undefeated in singles.
Yes, still has not been beaten in singles competition, but he did get pinned in the tag match, and that was the interesting thing, Ashton, because I had a belief that Sin Cara and Kalisto were going to win this match, mainly because Sami Zayn, ran in to protect Neville, and we've been talking this Fatal 4-Way for most of the show. But I was wondering who was going to eat the pin. Did they want to protect Rose, or did they want to, protect Zayn? And they opted to protect Zayn, which did surprise me a little bit, I'll be honest. But Rose ate the pin. I thought it was the right call. Again, Sin Cara and Kalisto, they owned it. They looking fantastic together. I love their attires. I love just everything about this team. I think them and the Ascension could really kill at a TakeOver 2 and have a phenomenal tag team clinic if given the time.
There you go. Not even really going to add to that.
All right, then. Well, with that said, let's get right into our next segment, High Spots and Low Shots. And I guess I'll take the reins here to start. My low shot are Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy.
Yeah, I definitely won't disagree with you on that.
I mean, even if you put aside the Marcus Louis and the Sylvester LaForge shenanigans that happened post-match,
they got squashed.
They got squashed by the Vaudevillains, a team that.
Well, I mean, let's give them some credit. They're undefeated too.
That's true. I mean, no disrespect to the Vaudevillains. You even heard me say, after the match, I really like that team, and I would not mind them being the NXT Tag Team Champions at all. It's just they don't even have the look of a team that would be capable of that kind of squash. But yes, Simon Gotch showing his power, which was awesome, and then Aiden English with the senton, which I'm
yeah, I mean, let's not allow ourselves to forget, dude. Aiden English has been on the winning end of quite a few squash matches in his time since he started getting pushed.
That's true. That is very true, Ashton. And you know what's interesting? And I just realized, I mean, the brackets are set now, dude. We've got Aiden English and Simon Gotch going against Sin Cara and Kalisto in the finals. It's going to be senton versus senton. Aiden English's senton versus Sin Cara's. So,
oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't even think. That's crazy.
I know, right? It just clicked with me when I was talking about them squashing Enzo and Big Cass. And yeah, we're going to get that clash. So yeah, Enzo Amore, Colin Cassidy just got ragged, and Enzo did eat the pin. You almost have to wonder, dude, and I'm not saying it's going to happen now, but you almost have to figure the time's going to come eventually where Colin Cassidy is just kind of sick of Enzo being the scrappy guy, but always eating the pins, and just kind of turns on him. I wouldn't be surprised if a heel turn did come from this team down the road, because he didn't even really get in there and do anything. So yeah, bad night for them. And then of course the whole shenanigans of Marcus Louis and Spencer before. Just a rough night for the the certified G's, those guys in the room.
And bona fide studs.
Yeah, and you can't teach that.
I mean, one of them is even 7 feet tall.
And you can't teach that. All right, now who's your low shot?
I might as well just kind of, rip the Band-Aid off quickly. My low shot is going to be Adam Rose, because you would expect them to be the most OP team ever, and he ate the pin, so why not?
Yeah, I mean, no further justification required. If you look at Adam Rose's record and how he's been booked, this was definitely the worst night he's had thus far. But luckily for him, it was only a tag match, and at least in singles, he's still rolling on. So I completely co-sign with your low choice.
I'm beginning to think that Sami Zayn is just an awful tag team partner.
Yeah, I know, right? Couldn't win the gold for him and Tyson against the Ascension. I know people are immediately going to be like, well, Tyson abandoned him. Well, that's no excuse. I've seen people overcome the odds and win handicap matches before. What's your problem?
And not only that, he got pinned in his tag match with Neville against Kid and Gabriel.
Yeah.
And now he's leaving Adam Rose to get double teamed here in this match against Carlisto.
Yeah. It's rough.
Sami Zayn's a great guy, but do not tag team with him because you will lose.
Exactly. Pretty much. So now we get to the more interesting side of the conversation, the high spots. Now this one's a bit more difficult for me, but I think, again, I'm just going to play the more obvious route, Sin Cara and Kalisto.
I like it.
I mean, they're going to the finals, and they had the match of the night to me. It was a game effort. I think they really had to prove themselves. I think they had the tougher opponents between the two teams, and they won. So, good on them. I do hope they go all the way and win the tag team titles for multiple reasons that I've already stated in this and past episodes. So let's hope that they'll be our new tag team champions.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really argue with that fact. But what I can argue with fact is that my high spot is fact Tyson Kidd. Fact.
My favorite douche on the entire roster. Just that smile every time, like he cuts a promo or he's trying to make a point or when he wins. Just you can tell he's reveling in his own villainy. It's just like, yeah, I'm a horrible person.
He's just accepted it at this point.
It's pretty great. And then it's funny though because I don't necessarily want to say he pandered to the crowd, but he did win by countout against who was the number one contender for the NXT World Championship in Tyler Breeze. And then, he dons the fur coat, kind of messes around a little bit. And yeah, Tyson Kidd, he's got some momentum. He got involved in that championship match the week prior, stuck his nose there, and then he follows it up with a win. So I really can't, again, much like your low shot action, not much justification is required for you picking Tyson Kidd as your high spot, and that's a fact. So,
fact. There you go.
All right. So, with that said, do you have anything else you want to say about this episode of NXT?
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't.
Wow! Fake out for the win.
Did I get you?
A little bit. You did. I'm like, oh man, we're gonna do it, and then it's like, I do own't. Oh. PhD at the Tyson Douche Academy of Douchery.
How did you know?
I took the same class.
Oh.
I only got a D- on my term paper.
What does that stand for? Douche minus?
Yeah, I just wasn't douchey enough.
Gotta work on that, John. Gotta work on that.
Yeah, I know. It's horrible. Anyway, guys, this was another good episode of NXT. Again, I mean, you heard our sentiments about it. Not as strong as last week, but hey, not every episode can be expected to be that spectacular, and I am really excited for TakeOver 2. So with that said, this has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. You know you want to. Discuss on Tweetoff, and we will see you again for our Monday Night Raw review, where John Cena will make his first public comments since being victimized by the Beast, Brock Lesnar.